This program is made possible by the individual members of the Lincoln Academy of Illinois. From the Illinois State Library in Springfield, the Lincoln Academy of Illinois presents the Convocation and Investiture of Laureates for the year 2000, a tradition of leadership. A public servant who improved the lives of working men and women in the United States. A pastor whose compassion has touched the lives of thousands tormented by alcohol and drugs. A business executive whose commitment to social service is making his community a better place to live and work. A sports hero who shares his inspirational story with millions around the world. A farmer who went to Capitol Hill to work for American agriculture. And an author and lawyer dedicated to the integrity of the legal system and whose novels have thrilled millions. As laureates of the Lincoln Academy of Illinois, these remarkable individuals have gathered in historic Springfield to join a 35-year tradition of leadership, recognizing personal achievement and service to humanity. Patterned upon the learned academies of Europe, the Academy was founded to honor Illinoisans whose lives reflect the spirit of Illinois' most famous son, Abraham Lincoln.
The basic purpose of the Lincoln Academy is to award the Order of Lincoln, which is the state's highest award, to Illinoisans either by birth or residence who have brought great distinction to our state by their deeds.
Unique among the 50 states, members of the nonpartisan, not-for-profit Lincoln Academy are appointed by the governor, who also serves as its president. Each fall, the laureates are chosen from 10 fields of endeavor: agriculture, arts and the performing arts, business, industry and communications, education, government and law, labor, medicine and science, religion, social service, and sports. They are awarded the Order of Lincoln Medallion, the state's highest award for individual achievement. Its colors of red, violet, and green symbolize the state bird, the cardinal, the state flower, the violet, and the leaves of the state tree, the oak. In addition to its laureates, the Lincoln Academy also honors potential leaders of tomorrow by recognizing the outstanding senior students at each of Illinois' four-year colleges and universities in ceremonies held each fall at the Illinois State Capitol.
Now for the key part of the convocation, the traditional ceremony where we recognize the work of famous Illinois citizens by birth or residence. The new laureates have been selected by the officers, regents, general trustees of the Academy in a procedure that commenced early last year. I now ask Mr. Thomas Johnson, a general trustee of the Academy, read the citation for laureate Lynn Martin.
Lynn Martin was born in Illinois, educated in the schools of Illinois, graduated with honors from the University of Illinois, taught in the classrooms of Illinois, and has brought honor to the people of Illinois by a lifetime of service to her community, state, and nation. Since it all began in 1976 when she was elected to the Illinois House of Representatives, it is a happy coincidence that these ceremonies are held here today in the shadow of the Capitol building. Her career as a legislator was wildly successful, and she moved from the House chamber across the Capitol to the Senate and then across the nation to the Congress, bringing to politics what, if she had been a musician, would have been called perfect pitch. In 1991, Lynn Martin was appointed by President George Bush to become our nation's Secretary of Labor, and she has worked tirelessly ever since to foster a highly skilled American workforce, to enhance the role of women in the workplace, and to increase the security of America's working men and women in today's rapidly changing, truly global economy. Ladies and gentlemen, a laureate of the Lincoln Academy and proud daughter of the land of Lincoln, the 21st Secretary of Labor of the United States, the Honorable Lynn Martin.
right hand, please, and repeat the oath after me. I, Lynn Morley Martin,
I, Lynn Morley Martin,
will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
No, it's terrific. It's still the best job in the world. No one talks about the fun and the joy of it. We all, I guess, either have to say, oh, it's so hard. All I do is slave for the people. I just loved it. I mean, maybe there were some bad minutes, but boy, the days were terrific.
Lynn Martin's life in public service began in Chicago, where she was taught by her parents' example that women have a place in the world of work. Upon graduation from the University of Illinois, she started a teaching career, which led her to Rockford. That's where she acquired a taste for politics.
I lived between the Republican state representative and the Democratic county chairman in Rockford. And had I not moved to Rockford, I don't think I would have been in politics. I think for a woman in Chicago, it would have been just too difficult to be involved. First of all, there was only one party, and you don't have as many choices that way. When I was in Rockford, I became friends with some of the people of both parties who were elected to office.
Martin ran as a Republican and served 4 years on the Winnebago County Board before waging a successful bid for the Illinois House of Representatives in 1976.
I worked on appropriations issues. It was very deliberate. Money was where there was power and the ability to move things, and few women had it. And so from the start, I thought I'm going to be involved in the appropriations process.
Martin says many votes are routine, but some cut you to the core, and all you can do is go by your conscience.
I will tell you that the death penalty was voted on. It's the single hardest vote I have ever cast as a member of any legislative body. We returned it in Illinois. It is the only time I've ever stayed up all night before a vote, read, prayed, did everything you've ever thought you might do. And I came to the conclusion when I made my final decision that no matter who made a different decision, I could respect it, because anyone who said, well, this is easy, either way, I thought, it isn't easy. In both cases, we're talking about lives lost. I came down and said, no, in heinous crimes, I believe that is legitimate. But it wasn't something to run on. It wasn't something to say, let's go kill people or something. I mean, I just think it's the essence of a terrible decision.
Martin won election to the Illinois Senate in 1978, and 2 years later, she headed for the nation's capital to represent her Northern Illinois House District in Congress.
I think I was a personal legislator, and I think I had one of the best offices. We were very, very responsive, and I say we because not the royal we, the office, to what the people needed. And you heard stories, but just, if you could help.
Martin made history as the first freshman named to the powerful House Budget Committee. She emerged as a national figure when she became the first woman elected to a national post as vice chair of the House Republican Conference. In the House, she fought for ethics reform, as she recalled in this 1990 interview.
When I got there, anybody who worked for Congress, if you were an African American, if you were a woman, you had absolutely no backup if there was racial or sexual discrimination. I mean that's hard for us to believe. When the Congress passed the Civil Rights Act in 1964, how did it exempt itself? But it did. That took 5.5 years. I mean, I think there's still some people not talking to me.
Martin lost a Senate bid in 1990, but the loss opened the door to being appointed U.S. Secretary of Labor by President George Bush.
Secretary Martin will help make the American workplace safer, healthier, and more secure, and serve this department and the country as a powerful force for good.
I think for the first time bringing the issues of the glass ceiling, how people were actually being, that if you believed in merit, this wasn't about put women first, put African Americans, this was like letting them walk on the path, for heaven's sakes. All the things people claimed they were for, it turns out they weren't doing. I think we also tried to work with businesses in environmental and safety areas that were willing to do more, sort of giving them a 5-year plan, which was very hard for some of the old-timers to understand.
Today, Martin teaches at Northwestern University's Kellogg Graduate School of Management. She is a senior advisor to the Council on the Advancement of Women at the accounting firm of Deloitte & Touche.
I think you really owe them try and make sure that even better things are available for a next generation. The best thing about public service or private service should be that 20 years from now someone has a better life and doesn't even know you were responsible. It's not the name, it's being able to make something better. So I think that's what you try to do.
I'm probably the beginning of what we're seeing, an extraordinary rebirth in this great nation, where we see more and more chances for more and more people. And as a result, we will see, as indeed we have, the country moving forward. So I know I am here representing, in many ways, the women who often so quietly did so much, the women who worked at home, the women who worked in our hospitals, in our schools, the women who often weren't in the business world, but made this nation and the world a better place to be. And it is in that spirit that I so willingly and happily and joyfully accept the honor that you have given me this evening. Thank you very much.
Born on Chicago's South Side, Monsignor Ignatius McDermott, Father Mac as he is affectionately known, has devoted his life to God and to saving men, women, children, and families from the devastation of alcohol and drugs. As director of Holy Cross Mission, Father Mac nightly walks Skid Row to minister to those addicted to alcohol and drugs. Alcoholics are not criminals, he declared, but rather sick people needing treatment. It was a new idea, and one put into practice when Father Mac co-founded Haymarket House, a 20-bed shelter with Dr. James West in 1975. Haymarket House has evolved into a state-of-the-art facilities administered by the McDermott Center and supported by the McDermott Foundation, both founded by Father Mac to support and develop substance abuse treatment programs. Each year, thousands of patients from all walks of life are given renewed hope through Haymarket House's comprehensive residential and outpatient treatment programs. Father Mac is alive with love for those troubled by addiction. He has devoted his life to restoring health to the sick, dignity to the degraded, and spirit to the heartsick. It is my pleasure to announce the Laureate Award to Father Mac.
And what's this guy's name? CJ. Hey, how about your autograph? We're going to eat. We're going to have our picture taken.
We call it the Holy Innocents, W-H-O-L-L-Y, Holy Innocents. We baptized that, and these are the children who are the offsprings of the women we are privileged to serve. They're in residence here, and during the daytime, they're at our daycare center.
Hey, how you guys doing? Hungry. Hey, you're hungry.
These happy, healthy children, born to mothers who battle addiction, are living proof of the success of Chicago's Haymarket House, one of this country's foremost alcohol and substance abuse treatment centers. Each year, some 13,000 people are served by nearly 40 programs run by Haymarket House throughout Chicago. It's all free of charge, and there's always hope.
We've had people come in here 300 times, and every time they come in here, even though they play a return engagement with Gordon's Gin or Hiram Walker, they leave here with the feeling, well, there's always a chance. And who knows, the next time they're going to be the 20-game winner.
Depression-era Chicago was home to Ignatius McDermott, a young seminarian who was deeply touched by the human misery caused by alcoholism on the city's infamous Skid Row.
I was ordained in 1936, and in 1936, Cardinal Mundelein made a change at Maryville Academy, St. Mary's Training School, in Des Plaines, Illinois, that was a home for dependent children between the ages of kindergarten and through high school. In the course of my 5 years there, I began to learn that alcoholism is a family sickness. Quite a few of the kids out there, they were half orphans.
Haymarket's bright, clean facilities reflect the center's philosophy of treating people with respect and dignity. It's a far cry from the old days.
They identified people with alcohol problems with Skid Row. They were entirely oblivious to the fact that they were working with alcoholics or living next door to them or upstairs or downstairs.
Following World War II, Father Mack was assigned to the Catholic Charities office on North Des Plaines, not far from one of the city's worst Skid Row areas.
We originated an AA meeting in the basement of the Catholic Charities, and I went in and out of the flop houses and had signs made and went into the powder rooms and put them over the urinals. If drinking is your problem, you want to do something about it. There's an AA meeting tonight, and they would read about it, and many of them would come 98 proof or 86 proof to the meeting, and it was a haven for warmth in cold weather.
Insights gleaned from decades of working with alcoholics and their families helped Father Mack found the Central States Institute of Addiction to offer training for caregivers in the field of addiction, including the state's first court program for DUI offenders. In 1975, he joined forces with Chicago surgeon Dr. James West to start the state's first freestanding social setting detoxification center for people with alcohol and substance abuse problems.
We called it Haymarket House. You wouldn't want to call it a drunk take. People have lost an awful lot of self. They've taken a shakedown cruise on their own. They sell themselves short. So we call this Haymarket House, and this is in the shadows of a famous corner.
Haymarket House found a permanent home in 1985 in a block of buildings west of Chicago's Loop, now known as the McDermott Center.
The Lord is good, and we put about close to $30 million into this building, and we operate 365 days, 24 hours a day.
Today, Haymarket House offers a wide variety of residential and outpatient addiction programs and many family-oriented services.
Our goal here is to treat the whole person. We have treatment facilities that deal with primarily the addiction problem, but then we also have counseling programs that would deal with family issues. We have a domestic violence program. We have a daycare center for the women. We have a medical clinic on site that supports health education, including HIV and AIDS counseling if necessary. We have a detox facility for men and for women. We have some specialized program for women, including a prenatal program, and that was started in 1990, and to date we've had almost 700 babies born drug-free as a result of that program. We have a postpartum program where a woman can continue to have her children with her after she delivers.
Nearing his 90th year, Father Mack is still dreaming up new programs for those in need, remembering well the words of St. Vincent de Paul, who taught that when you no longer burn with love, others will die of the cold.
Thank God for having allowed me to live this long and to be sensitive to the needs of his hurting humanity.
May our dear Lord continue to endow all of us with his most potent parlay of benedictions, health of body, and shalom of soul. Our gratitude will ever remain green in the hall of our daily feeble prayers. Thank you.
Andrew J. McKenna is Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Schwartz, an international distributor and printer of paper products, and a highly and widely respected executive who has volunteered his considerable expertise in support of numerous civic, cultural, and charitable causes. Scores of leaders seek Andy's wisdom. The Chicago Tribune reported in May of 1999 that Mr. McKenna manages more commitments than most heads of state. Mr. McKenna is equally well known for his civic and philanthropic work. He is chairman currently and has been since 1992 of the University of Notre Dame. He serves currently as chairman of the Economic Club of Chicago, a director of Children's Memorial Hospital, the Lyric Opera of Chicago, the Big Shoulders of the Archdiocese of Chicago. Andy McKenna and his wonderful wife, Joan, and their 7 children have touched the lives of legends of Illinois citizens. And now, Andy McKenna has well earned this award. Thank you.
So we ought to all feel good about this leadership phase. $470 million is a remarkable number, but we also have a ways to go. We have hope for it, modest concern, but looking at this audience here and throughout this country, we will make it. I know we'll make it. Thank you.
I think it's important in life to be able to sort things out and know what's important and what's not important. But once you've sorted things out, I tell people to have yes in your vocabulary more than you have no. I think that's important. I think to always say yes to opportunities.
Andrew McKenna has always said yes to hard work on the job and in public life. He held a variety of jobs during high school and worked 4 jobs during his first year of law school at DePaul University. Joining Schwartz Paper Company as a salesman, he became the first non-family member to direct the company, which he purchased in 1967.
It's a diverse company, and probably the name Schwartz Paper doesn't do it justice. When I joined the company, its principal business was paper distribution and supplies. Since that time, and we're still engaged in that business, but since that time we're in the printing business. We have 5 printing plants around the country. We have a decorated paper segment called Exeter, who are in very specialty types of paper. We're in the point of sale business. We have a segment of our company called Schwartz Worldwide, where we are a point of sale agency for major advertisers.
McKenna stresses teamwork in an open and flexible environment where employees are empowered and involved in a company committed to the community it serves.
I think corporations do have a soul, S-O-U-L, soul, and I think it's important that we extend that. Obviously, a lot of the important agencies that are vital to a community have always had government support. Today, there just isn't enough government support for most of those agencies, and they have to appeal to the private sector. And I think we in the private sector need to step up to these things. I think we have to help provide leadership.
McKenna is an active participant in the civic life of Chicago, where he chairs the Economic Club and leads the Commercial Club's Chicago Metropolis 2020 effort. It's a comprehensive look at education, economic development, taxation, governance, transportation and land use, and housing to ensure the preeminence of the Chicago metropolis in the year 2020.
There was a plan developed by the Commercial Club called the Burnham Plan. And the Burnham Plan led to some of the wonderful things about Chicago today, our lakefront, our park system. As we go into the 21st century, there's a lot of issues that we need to deal with, and we think that the private sector has to step up and be important in those areas. We think it's vital for the future of the region. We're trying to be proactive and not reactive, and we've had wonderful support, not just only financial support, but involvement. I mean, we have a wonderful group of people who provide a great mix and are deeply, deeply committed.
The Archdiocese of Chicago's Big Shoulders Fund is one of many commitments McKenna has made to civic, community, and philanthropic boards in Chicago. He is a director of Children's Memorial Hospital.
It's a great place. I always tell people who are think they have something tough in life, whatever it might be, I say, I'll tell you what, give me a half an hour someday and let me just walk you through any floor of that hospital, and then you leave and you tell me who has things tough. They do a remarkable job. Their attention to youngsters and the youngster's special needs is extraordinary, and it's a very fulfilling thing to be part of that hospital.
McKenna chaired the Museum of Science and Industry's Board of Trustees during its most recent expansion, an effort that transformed this nationally important educational institution.
Cultural activities, be they our universities, our arts, and our museums are vitally important. And the Museum of Science and Industry there are three major museums of its sort in the world. And clearly in this country it is the primary institution of that kind, and it has a very profound and important effect on the community.
McKenna feels a special commitment to his alma mater, the University of Notre Dame.
It means a place that I have a great deal of affection for, that's been part of my life for a long period of time. That is, I hope it provides both spiritual and practical focus for me and for those people who are there. I'm very grateful for the relationships that I built up when I was there. Also grateful for the opportunity to serve the university as a trustee and then as a vice chair, and then for the last 8 years as chair. So it's been a great opportunity for me to be involved with this, not the university, but people who are connected with it. And it's something which I hope in some very small way that I was helpful in helping them focus on the road that they go down now.
McKenna's management skills are also in demand on the boards of major corporations like insurance giant Aon, McDonald's, the Tribune Company, and sports teams like the Chicago Bears and Cubs. How does he find the time?
You have to be respectful of the time constraints that you need to place upon yourself and to discipline yourself with. But once you focus and said, I'm going to be able to devote this much time to my family, this much to my profession or my work, whatever it might be, and this much to community endeavors, and then to continue down that road and know how to say yes and not just to say no.
It's a great thing and honor to be here. I think that there isn't much I can add to what's been said, except to tell you that there's one little mission in life that I think we all ought to focus on. When you're asked to help young people get a start on their career, grow on their job, or realize their potential, just say yes. And when you're asked to support the institutions that foster opportunities in our society, like schools and churches and government, just say yes. And when you're asked to work with others to help make your community a better place to live and work, we should all say yes. I think that's the light we all need to see, and that's the light I hope we will all continue to follow. I am deeply honored to this Academy for this remarkable award, encouraged, and I hope we can all continue that same journey and always say yes. Thank you.
Born in Champaign, Illinois, Robert Eugene Richards is an Olympic pole vaulting champion who captivated the sports world for nearly 2 decades. Today, he devotes his life to encouraging young athletes to do their best and inspires thousands with his motivational remarks. Mr. Richards won the bronze medal in the pole vault at the 1948 Olympic Games in London, and he won back-to-back gold medals in that event in the 1952 and 1956 Olympic Games held in Helsinki, Finland, and Melbourne, Australia, respectively. And to this day, he remains the only individual to ever win 2 gold medals in this event. Mr. Richards has compiled an impressive record, certainly, of athletic achievement. And off the field, he has touched the lives of countless numbers by both word and example. So therefore, it is my privilege to present to you, as a laureate of the Lincoln Academy of Illinois, Robert Eugene Richards.
I think I got one of the greatest push-offs of my life. And when I went over the crossbar, this enormous roar of the people in the background, their hands are up like this, screaming and yelling, and I'm like this. I practically went back up over the crossbar again.
Reliving his first of 2 gold medal Olympic performances, Illinois sports legend Bob Richards is living proof that anyone can be inspired to be a champion.
Well, I was probably the most unlikely kid to ever be an Olympic champion ever. When I was 15, I weighed 91 pounds, 5 feet tall, and was slow. I think I owe everything to having been born in Champaign-Urbana, in Illinois, where what I call the atmosphere of greatness was all around you if you were willing to respond.
Growing up around Illini heroes like Lou Boudreau and Red Grange inspired Richards to do his best in sports, but chance led him to pole vaulting at age 13.
The coach came by and said, "Richards, you look like you can pole vault. We need a pole vaulter. Go out and jump." I jumped 6 feet 9 inches and won the meet. Now, that's not even a good high jump today, but I fell in love with something. And when you fall in love with something, you don't have workouts. It becomes kind of a magnificent obsession. You can't stop training. Well, I ran across the street, had a telephone pole and a tree with nails in it, and I put up a little bamboo, and I would jump onto the ground, onto mattresses.
But Richards needed inspiration of another sort to realize his dreams.
I was in kind of a bunch of guys that didn't have many dreams, or they didn't worry about education or books or anything like that. But I got converted, and here I owe so much to a young preacher named Merlin Garber, who taught me about God, and I started reading the Bible and so forth. But more importantly, I started reading, period. I fell in love with learning, with books.
A scholarship to the University of Illinois put his love of learning to work, and tough athletic competition improved his performance. His team captured the NCAA title in 1947, and he tied for first place in the vault.
And in Copenhagen, Denmark, in a meet, I went over a crossbar at the Olympic record, and I went 6 inches over it. And like a bolt out of the blue, it hit me. You can win the Olympics if you train hard.
Richards vaulted to a bronze medal at the 1948 Olympic Games in London. He stuck to his training and his studies, earning a degree in religion. Dubbed the vaulting vicar by sports writers, Richards found himself in constant demand as a speaker for high school groups, leading him to help found the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. He broke the 15-foot barrier in 1951, setting the stage for the 1952 Olympic Games in Helsinki, Finland.
When I went over the crossbar in Helsinki, I had quietly prayed, "Oh, God, help me do my..." Anyway, against the wind and everything, when I took off, it was like inside my soul something screamed out, "Push!" And I went over the crossbar and won the Olympics. Well, now, that's not God pulling me out and winning. That's you pulling out the best in you because of a relationship with a divine principle. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but it does to me.
Richards' vault of 14 feet 11.14 inches set a new Olympic record and changed his life forever.
This is 10,000 hours of work. This is 12 years of concentrated work. And all of a sudden, the Star Spangled Banner starts playing. You talk about something. And the tears just start flowing, and you realize, my God, I've been able to represent my country in the greatest sport in the world. And you sob. You can't stop it.
Richards kept up the pace, setting a new world's record of 14 feet 11.5 inches at the 1956 Melbourne Games, the only athlete ever to win 2 gold medals in the vault.
When you realize that you're there and that you're representing this great achievement, success psychology of what we call America, it's a tremendous feeling.
Back home, the clean-cut sports hero was a natural performer, on and off the field.
To do your best, you've got to maintain your health. You've got to get enough rest, get some exercise, and eat properly, starting with breakfast.
Richards competed another year before turning his attention to a varied career as a sportscaster, filmmaker, best-selling author, goodwill ambassador, and motivational speaker to millions.
Think that you are the greatest, and go for it. Reach out for a challenge. You will be as big as your challenge.
I think speaking after you do something and motivating other people, taking a message of success to other people and conquering to other people, that this is more important than the conquering itself. There's something more important than just pole vaulting a record or shooting a basket or throwing a football. Use your life, and forgive me for getting religious on you, but let your light so shine so that others might see it and glorify God. I mean, pass the torch along. I can't help but stand here and tell you I'm so amazed at what God can do with a stick. And I mean that not only as a pole vaulting pole, but as a wooden stick like me. I close one thought. God didn't make you to stand on all fours and look at the ground. He made you to stand on two legs and to look at the stars. We are made for greatness. We are made to succeed, to achieve, to love, to build, to write, to create, to work forever and ever and ever. Thank you.
Born in Sublette, Illinois, Harold Steele is a respected agricultural leader who used his firsthand knowledge of farming to shape agricultural policy outside of Bureau County, onto Washington, D.C., and around the world. When he said the challenge to serve, Harold Steele said yes. Harold Steele is a farm boy whose heart never left the farm. As Illinois Farm Bureau president, he led successful efforts to help farmers in promoting tax reform, educational efforts, and promoting agricultural markets around the world. Mr. Steele's agricultural expertise, his leadership abilities, and his service on numerous agricultural boards led to the appointment by President Reagan in 1987 to chair the National Commission on Agricultural Finance. 2 years later, President Bush appointed him to the position of chairman of the board and CEO of the Farm Credit Administration, the largest source of agricultural credit in the country. Harold enjoys a distinguished record of service not just to farmers, but to all of us who are dedicated to what farmers and agriculture does. It is my pleasure and my privilege to present to you, as a laureate of the Lincoln Academy of Illinois, Harold B. Steele.
My dad used to go out in the field in the morning, and he'd have a sack of seed corn there that he'd sit on to get to the field.
Harold Steele's love of farm history shines through in thousands of pieces of vintage farm equipment and implements that crowd the barns and outbuildings of his family's Bureau County farm. It's a showplace for the Prairie State's proud agricultural history, built by a man whose convictions are deeply rooted in the rich, dark earth near Dover, Illinois.
I guess a good bit like my dad, the spring of the year, to see everything come to life. And you plant the crops, you watch them grow, you wish it would rain, and then you wish it would stop raining. But you see the creation develop. And then in the fall, you harvest, and everything goes to sleep for the winter.
A decorated combat veteran of World War II, Steele's leadership in national farm policy started naturally enough with the local Farm Bureau.
I believe fervently, probably from my father and mother, that Farm Bureau was the organization that spoke for and worked in behalf of the farmer members. Dad was active here in the county in Farm Bureau. Mother was active in Home Bureau. So I suppose that's what instilled me to say, here's a place where I should be able to do something to help agriculture.
Elected president of the Illinois Farm Bureau in 1970, Steele worked for important reforms in farmland reassessment and other fronts, believing farmers needed to be well informed to have a strong voice in shaping agricultural policy.
Legislative, marketing, information, basic ingredients that farmers need. They're the lookout point. When I was with Farm Bureau in Bloomington, the state organization, as we talked as staff and as we talked as a board of directors that set policy, we have a responsibility to give heads up to the members about what's coming down the road, what they should look for, because we felt we were in a position to really know what's coming. They're busy producing and selling. It was our responsibility not only looking after their current needs that they realize, but also what's coming over the hill, what's coming down the road, what's coming ahead of them.
Higher farm productivity spurred Steele to seek new international markets for Illinois farm products in places like China and the former Soviet Union.
We knew that one of two things had to happen: cut back production or open markets. And we knew that, just like in the Army, the worst thing you can do is a holding force or retreat. The best thing to do is surge ahead, advance ahead. The same is true with agriculture. You don't want to say cut back production. You don't want to say do a poor job. Do the best you can. Increase it, and we'll find a market. And that's what we try to do.
The farm crisis of the 1980s put Steele's leadership to the test. Thousands of farmers went out of business, and the nation's farm credit system teetered on the brink of collapse.
The farm credit system then unfortunately followed a new system of collateral lending. And when the interest rates went out and land values dropped in half or more, it was tragic. The system almost failed. And the largest bank in the history of the United States, in Jackson, Mississippi, went into receivership.
President Reagan called Steele to Washington in 1987 to head the National Commission on Agricultural Finance. 2 years later, President Bush tapped him to lead the Farm Credit Administration, which oversees the nation's farm credit system. His task was to restore the system's banks to financial health and to create an insurance company within the structure of the farm credit system to protect investors, lenders, and borrowers.
We've had good crops. Prices have been very favorable. Production has been very favorable. But also I want to say we did bring in that insurance company to fruition. And in the last report that I received, they're up to full base amount. And they have $1.4 billion to protect the investors in the farm credit system funds.
Today, Steele maintains a keen interest in farm policy and trade issues and encourages strong citizen involvement in government at all levels. While he dreams of establishing a living farm museum for future generations, he's excited about tomorrow.
Give her a hand. You have to be an optimist to be a farmer. And I don't say that frivolously or lightly, but I say it, first, you believe. I believe in God the Creator. I believe so much in our Constitution. I believe so much in our system. As I look at myself, I simply say I am a mere product of our great society, our great system, the great competitive enterprise system, and all that goes with it. The Constitution. Scholars have studied the constitutions of all countries on planet Earth, and there's one big difference in our Constitution to their constitution. 3 words: we the people. And I have believed that if I do my best and if you do your best, then all of us will have the best. I've endeavored to accommodate that belief. And so on behalf of those people that I've been honored to serve with, of family and friends and colleagues, I gratefully and humbly accept this honor. Thank you.
Born in Chicago, attorney and novelist Scott F. Turow has combined his love of writing with a devotion to the law to create compelling novels that have sold millions of copies and have been translated into 20 languages. In 1975, he entered Harvard Law School and turned the diaries of his first year into his first published novel, 1L, and an inside account of life in the first year at Harvard Law School. After graduating with honors in 1978, Mr. Turow served 8 years as an assistant United States attorney in Chicago, where he was lead counsel in the trial stemming from Operation Greylord, an investigation of judicial corruption, a great public service. But his love of writing was not to be suppressed. He wrote his first novel, Presumed Innocent, largely during his train commute. And he hasn't stopped writing, nor has he stopped practicing law. His legal work is sometimes life-altering. In 1995, he successfully urged the Illinois Appellate Court to reverse a murder conviction, paving the way for a man's freedom after nearly a dozen years in prison. It is my privilege to present to you, as a laureate of the Lincoln Academy of Illinois, Scott F. Turow.
The fundamental task of the law is to try to make our lives more reasonable, our social interaction more reasonable, and accepting that the world is hazardous and often unfair. The law's job is to try to improve on that a little bit, and trying to regulate a society as diverse and complex as ours, with needs that are incredibly varied, it's an amazingly difficult task.
The law makes for amazingly powerful and popular fiction in the hands of Chicago lawyer and writer Scott Turow. Turow's legal thrillers have sold some 20 million copies, making him one of the most popular, if not most easily recognizable authors in the world.
Hi.
Oh, the new Scott Turow book I ordered. Thanks.
Hi. You ordered my book yesterday?
Thank you.
And
Turow knew as a child that he wanted to be a writer, and credits his mother with giving him an early appreciation for American classics like Huckleberry Finn. The vivid characters and unexpected twists of plot penned by Charles Dickens also left a lasting impression.
I hope that the unexpected goes to reveal character, so that it's both entertaining in the sense that it's almost as surprising as life, and yet looking backward, you can say that that's plausible and consistent and indeed, as I said, a revelation.
Turow majored in English at Amherst College and later taught creative writing at Stanford University. But his profound interest in the law led him to Harvard University in 1975. He chronicled the experience in 1L, an inside account of life in the first year at Harvard Law School. Returning to Chicago in 1978, Assistant United States Attorney Scott Turow built a reputation prosecuting wrongdoing in the legal community, including Operation Greylord's probe of corruption in the Cook County court system.
Being a judge is a job that carries such esteem that if you can create a situation where those who sit on the bench are no longer tainted by suspicions, then the good judges, the many good judges, would prevail, and the system there would be reformed. And I frankly think that's what happened. I think not only was Greylord great law enforcement, it was also, although I don't think this is the role of prosecution, it was also great social reform.
Turow says he owes his wife Annette an enormous debt for believing in his writing enterprise and supporting his decision in 1982 to spend $2,000 on a computer to finish a novel that he started drafting during his daily train commute. Published in 1987, the novel was presumed innocent, which stayed on the New York Times bestseller list for 44 weeks and inspired a 1990 hit movie.
There isn't that a word in the spoken language of any nation that could possibly comprehend my shock. I was standing right outside this door when I got a phone call from Hollywood, and it was my agent, and I was being offered more money for the film rights to Presumed Innocent than I had made in all the years that I had worked as an assistant United States attorney put together. And I said, what should I do? He said, turn it down, there'll be more. And I said, okay, no. And I put down the phone. I was both elated by my independence, and I was just overcome by the ironies of this.
4 more novels followed in the 90s, along with a host of literary awards. Yet Turow remained deeply committed to the law as a partner in a major Chicago law firm specializing in white-collar criminal litigation. His considerable pro bono work there resulted in a new trial that ultimately freed Alejandro Hernandez from Illinois' death row for a crime another man confessed to.
I was shocked and white hot with anger. I regard the second and third Hernandez trials as complete travesties.
Governor George Ryan has sought Turo's expertise for a special committee studying the state's capital punishment system. This after 12 other people, including Hernandez's co-defendant, were freed from death row. Turo continues honing his skills as a writer, intrigued by his increasing vision of the extraordinary tension between life and the law.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, it's a constant effort to perfect craft, not only sentence by sentence, which is where I really concentrated as a younger person, but more and more in the whole, the organic, you know, sort of creature that's the novel. And, you know, there are advantages to getting older. You've learned something along the way. So I just want to keep telling the tale.
The land of Lincoln is not simply the place that I live, but is also the site, really, of my imagination. It has been a happy place for us to return to, and for me in particular, because, in point of fact, Illinois, Chicago have really been my subjects as a novelist, and I'm blessed by the reception that they have received. Finally, in receiving this honor and acknowledging happy choices, I have to acknowledge the happiest one that I made, that is, who I married. Thank you, Annette.
Governor George Ryan, the Academy's president, was unable to attend this year's ceremonies because the legislature was still in session. He was represented by Bridget Lamont, Director of Policy Development for the Office of the Governor.
I do want to say to our new laureates that the Order of Lincoln is a measure of your actions. It's a measure of the simple acts and the great things that you have left in your wake. Lynn Martin, there are many ordinances and laws on the books today which help families and children bear the imprint of the work of Lynn Martin, your compassion and your understanding. To Monsignor McDermott, known by many as Father Mac, and to his countless friends, you have found countless riderless horses and their unconscious owners by the side of the road. Like Lincoln, you have saved many lives. To Mr. McKenna, who's held and continues to hold seats on numerous civic and philanthropic boards because you see past the bottom line. You have looked into the eyes of your fellow men and women, and you have helped fill their needs. Bob Richards, your abilities and your dedication have vaulted you, our speechwriters said to the governor and me, no pun intended, to Olympic victory. Your gold and bronze medals have laid the foundation for a life of inspiration to others through your founding and your continued work with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes and your innumerable acts on behalf of young people. Harold Steele, you remind us tonight that this is a state of agriculture, and you have done what most farmers never get a chance to do. You have spoken directly with the President of the United States to talk about the plight of the American farm family and what many families are facing here in Illinois. Scott Turow, a terrific Illinois author. While you continue to publish, Scott retains a commitment to the law and the principles of freedom. You've devoted countless hours to those simple acts that have served so many people well and the legal representation that you've provided to the indigent in Chicago. On behalf of the Governor of Illinois and his wonderful wife, Laura Lynn Ryan, and all of us who represent government, let me say how proud we are of all of our laureates, of everything that you have accomplished in your lives, and the honor that you bring to our great state. Thank you very much.